Hey everybody! Silksong good. Silksong also hard. Silksong bosses are good and also hard, and today I'm ranking all of them from worst to best. But what counts as a boss though? Unlike Hollow Knight, we don't have a Garmond that easily tells us which one are bosses. So, this time around, any enemy that has a name introduction is a boss. So no, I'm not counting Kragler, unlike the wiki, and if I did, it would be at the bottom, because his fight is ass. For my criteria, it is the same as for my Hollow Knight video. First, gameplay and combat mechanics. Self-explanatory. Second, visuals and atmosphere, so everything that has to do with the vibe of the fight. And third, lore and place in the story. For this video I'll be using my speedrun playthrough footage, but also my first playthrough gameplay, so don't be mean to me for using the Reaper crest. I didn't know it was bad. This intro's a mess. Let's just get onto it with D tier and number 44. No F tiers this time around.
Oh no, I'm not in the group yet. No, I'm afraid I just blew myself.
The worst boss in this game is Plasmified Zango, because of course he is. If this one wasn't considered a boss, it wouldn't piss me off. It would just be a random enemy that serves a narrative and world building purpose, and it would be pretty cool as just that. But no, it is a boss with name introduction and everything. The gameplay is lame as hell, but it is interesting that he regenerates. It has a cool narrative around him, and it is fun poking him with the plasmium needle.
You can't just have your characters announce how they feel! That makes me feel angry!
If Enraged Conchfly was an Act 2 boss, I think it would feel a lot better. But as an Act 3 boss, it just feels way too easy. This was literally one of the few I got first try during my first playthrough. And beyond that, it just feels way too similar and like a downgrade to the Great Conchfly's boss fight. Sure, it does more damage and it is faster, I think, but it is essentially the same fight. This one is boring and pretty sauceless.
You can almost feel the electricity in the air. Can't you?
Why is the climb to Voltvirm so much harder than the actual boss? This one is kinda whatever. The gameplay is repetitive and way too basic, but I like the visual design of the boss well enough. In particular, what I like about it is how the Voltvirm and the Voltworms in general look like sea anemone. It helps build the lore of the Sands of Karak, having contained a sort of coral ecosystem in its past. But yeah, another boring one.
My hands are sticky.
Who's that there?
It's me, my hands are sticky right now.
Okay, so even though Broodmother is higher than the previous three, because it is clearly a lot more complex and interesting, it is also the first boss in this list that pisses me the hell off. The arena is stupidly minuscule, the constant spawning of minions is annoying, the way she lunges at you is so hard to avoid for some reason, I hate the Mucus attack that immobilizes you, and the short gauntlet beforehand just adds insult to injury. She at least has some cool lore that ties into the overall story of the slab, but it is not enough. I didn't put this one lower because of that, and because it is a real boss fight unlike the previous three, but still, I hate her.
Trying to pick her up and saying, "Girl, you're thicker than a bowl of oatmeal."
Oh boy, it's time for my favorite mechanic in the game, Makamagots. Great! When it comes to disgraced chef Lugoli, I like their story of being a disgraced chef, as their name implies, but I can't really enjoy this one. And yeah, it has to do with the damn Makamagots. You have two options, dealing with this annoying ass mechanic, or if you have it, use the Wreath of Purity, and just bypassing it completely. And I don't love either. Yes, the second option is way less annoying. But whenever the best way to deal with a mechanic in a game is to outright ignore it, I find that to be bad game design. Long story short, Chef Lugoli is annoying. That was D tier. Let's get on to C tier with number 39.
The cranium. A skull. What about this?
Both of these games have some bosses that are just bigger versions of regular enemies, and Skull Tyrant is one of them. I don't have much to say. He is certainly a boss. Despite being so simple, with him just running from one side to the other and making rocks fall, he does provide a decent challenge, at least on a first playthrough. Especially if you're like me and went with the Reaper crest, which has the slowest pogo in the game, but that's a me problem. The second appearance is much cooler though, with him coming to destroy Bone Bottom, but the fact that the gameplay remains unchanged is a little disappointing. But whatever, Crown Tyrant is fine.
Hey. Oh, they're falling in love.
Very nice and gay. Okay, moving on. Okay, no, I actually have to say stuff. Great Conchflies is yet another one of those bosses that are bigger versions of regular enemies, and it's just not the most interesting. And the regular Conchflies already aren't the most interesting enemies to face, but there are a couple of aspects to this one that I enjoy. I like how you don't actually kill both of them, with one deciding to retreat to get stronger, even if the Raging Conchfly fight is a downgrade. I also like the overall fast pace of the fight, but with plenty of chances to heal, it is pretty fair. That's about it. This one is fine.
Is that Zaza I smell?
I love Garmond and Zaza as characters, which is why they are not lower, but man, this fight is such a disappointment. Here's the thing. I know Garmond and Zaza aren't meant to actually be these insanely powerful warriors and whatnot, but throughout the game you get the feeling that they are quite capable, holding their own against the cursed bugs of the Citadel and Morrowind. So why is it that this boss fight is such a joke? I get this is a friendly duel and I'm not saying make them the toughest guys around, but some challenge would have been nice. It kind of pisses me off, like these two aren't charlatans, they aren't sewed, so why are they treated as such? Also, why is this fight so easy to miss? I literally had to download an external save file to fight them. Whatever, at least pushing them into the spikes is kind of funny.
I'm so pale.
You're on it.
Yeah, the Pale Stack boss fight is kind of a slog. Most of the time is spent chasing it around as they constantly teleport, while dodging their annoying projectiles. It is very reminiscent of No Eyes in the gameplay department, and you don't want to be compared to No Eyes when it comes to gameplay. But, similarly to No Eyes, the vibes here are immaculate. The calmness of the grotto as you chase it around, the quiet singing of the theme, the angelic glow of its design, their adorable howls, it all perfectly conveys the feeling of hunting down a majestic, elusive and beautiful mythical creature. So yeah, No Eyes Part 2, bad gameplay but great atmosphere.
At first glance, Moss might seem kind of boring.
Oh yeah baby, it's time for Benchfly King yet again. But wait, this one is actually kind of fun? There, I said it, I like Moss Mother as a boss. Yeah, it is rather basic, but I also think she works really well as a first boss, because even though she has the boring attack pattern of Benchfly King, there are some enhancements that make it so much better. The falling rocks, the way she spawns her minions, the stagger, and most importantly, the fact that you can actually hit her while she's idle. So this simple fight doesn't drag longer than it has to. I also like her design quite a bit. She isn't just a bigger version of the basic enemy of the area. She is distinct, while simultaneously looking as the mother of the moss grabs. And I know the music theme isn't unique to her, but holy shit, they did not need to go this hard for the first boss. And the boss variants for this one, the double and the void version, add a lot to it. It can be higher because yes, it is very basic, but it is the right kind of basic.
Oh, I wouldn't say free, more like under new management.
Summon Savior has an uphill battle on this ranking right off the bat, as I really don't like how it is a Steelsoul exclusive. That kinda sucks dude, not gonna lie, but moving past that big issue I have with it, when it comes to the fight itself, it also isn't the best. It is on the simpler side, with its attacks being those of any void enemy from Act 3, plus the dashing it does. It's not bad, but it's relatively plain. And on that same note, it is also super short. Even in this terrible first and only attempt I did, it only took me about 1 minute to beat it. Despite all of these criticisms, I didn't put it any lower because I quite like everything surrounding the boss fight, and really love the overall vibes of it. I like Sula and their narrative, I like the small questline of how the Summon Savior came to be, and in particular I really like how this boss storyline is a small taste of what Act 3 is going to be about, with people wrongly summoning Void and it getting out of control. Cool stuff, despite relatively plain gameplay.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
The lead up to Gurr the Outcast is pretty great, with you following his trail only for the final one to be a trap that leads to the boss fight. And his design and lore are so cool too. He is such a badass motherfucker. Which is why the fight being such a snooze fest is so disappointing. Oh my god dude, just get out of the ground and actually fight me instead of spamming me with dumb traps. This one even got changed while I was writing this video, with him now being faster, but sadly the gameplay on this one still is kind of boring and annoying, and simply not challenging. Ignore the fact that I didn't beat him first try, that is a skill issue on my part.
You gotta give me back my floor! My customers are walking around in the pipes!
I kind of hated Nihilith the first time around, but I come to appreciate it a lot more. This whole fight is built around having to stay up on walls and jumping from one side to the other, kind of like that one section in the Trial of the Fool, but not as nerve-wracking. Like I said, I initially hated that, but I've come to enjoy how different she feels from every other boss because of this design. Yes, the execution can feel somewhat slow and annoying, in particular with how her harpoon seems just out of range whenever she is on the other side, but the gameplay is okay enough and it makes me interested in seeing a better execution of this floorless boss fight concept. Her lore is compelling as well, with her being the whole reason Shellwood even exists, and how she was the only one who truly was able to stand up to the Citadel, forcing them into an agreement. So yeah, even though the execution of the gameplay concept isn't perfect, I appreciate how different it is, and her interesting lore as well as the overall good atmosphere the fight has make me appreciate this one. That was C tier. Let's get into the good bosses with B tier and number 31.
The tempo?
Were you edging or were you gooning?
Watcher on the Edge is quite literally a regular Karak warrior, but repainted grey and with more health, its moves being almost identical. Usually a description like that would land a boss way lower on a list like this, but I think the base moveset and design of the Karak warriors is already great, so I don't mind a stronger version of one of them. Beyond that, I really dig the storytelling here. The last of the Karaks is still standing guard at the edge of a kingdom that no longer exists, awakening once again for a final battle, a final attempt at continuing his duty. I know everything about this boss is rather simple, but I find it super compelling and entertaining nonetheless.
Mr. Beast!
The deep hate that I've seen from people towards Savage Beastfly is honestly one of the funniest things ever. The mere existence of the subreddit Fuck Savage Beastfly is incredible, some amazing content in there. That being said, I don't get it. Like yeah, this boss is challenging, especially on a first playthrough, when you're still getting used to the double damage and the diagonal pogo of the Hunter's Crest. But it really isn't that bad, you guys. As Hornet would say, my biggest issue with this one is that, yes, it is another one of those stronger version of a regular enemy type of boss, which I think I made clear I don't love, but I think the moveset is challenging and fun enough, and I really love how you can use their own attacks to get rid of the minions. But if I was only considering the first match, I'd probably put it in like middle C tier. But man, the rematch is actually so much fun. Nothing out of this world by any means, but really solid stuff. The arena with floors that disappear under the Beastfly's attack makes for a super good challenge, and the minions with range attacks can be annoying, but manageable, and in general it makes for a considerable spike in difficulty that also feels fair, since you'll probably have some upgrades by the time the rematch rolls around. This fight isn't the best thing in the world, but it is fun, you guys just don't get it. Pinstress, will you come back down for fuck's sake? This fight is actually really great whenever Pinstress is on the ground, so like a third of the time. Okay, so yeah, I don't like how much of the time she spends away on the air. What I do love about Pinstress is how you really get to feel as if you're fighting a master. Her enemy AI feels smarter and more complex than your average enemy. She knows when to retreat, when to play defensively, when to charge you. She really gets to feel as a strategic boss. This is particularly obvious with the use of her charge attack, and how she holds it until she finds the perfect moment to unleash it. That is so freaking cool. The Mount Fate location elevates it as well, making it feel much more epic. So yes, she can be annoying, but I enjoy a lot of it.
Poshanka!
Chakra, stop moving so fast, for the love of God! This one is a little frustrating, especially at first. Chakra moves at a speed that feels kind of ridiculous and her attacks are no better, but it does improve a lot once you start to get the rhythm of the fight and are able to understand how to land hits. It is fun enough gameplay wise, and I really love that we can duel with Chakra, and especially that she isn't a fraud unlike Garmond and Zaza. She indeed is a super capable warrior. I do find it kind of disappointing that the arena is the Moorwing arena. That's a little sauceless, especially for a Chakra fight, but I don't know where else it could have been, to be honest. This one is fun.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
It is time for Pogo Simulator once again, but this time it's actually pretty fun. Fighter of the Flame is one of the more unique boss fights in the game. A giant totem of religious nature that isn't alive, at least not in the same way most enemies in this game are. Just its creepy nature and design makes this boss fight stand out so much. And like I said, the gameplay is fun. It's a good execution of a boss centered around pogoing, even if it feels a little repetitive. My biggest issue with this boss fight though is how punishing it is of mistakes. Since you get no silk from hitting them, getting hit feels so much worse. And in that sense, I actually feel like this boss has one of the worst runbacks in the game. It is very short, don't get me wrong, but since you'll probably only get one healing in the fight, getting hit on the way there feels so much more punishing than any other boss. And the enemies on the runback are actually pretty strong and fast, so it's not unfeasible for someone to get hit. So yeah, I've got my issues with it, but it is also kind of a miracle that a stationary boss turned out this well.
And he's got a great line. Me so thorny.
During my first playthrough during the early game, I was so used to getting my ass whooped that when I beat Sister Splinter in only a few tries, it made me think I was getting better at the game, only to have Widow give me a reality check 15 minutes later. This one is a rather simple fight, especially with her attack pattern being so straightforward and the same every time. It can even feel somewhat repetitive, but I do enjoy the gameplay on this one. However, the character design, arena, and music theme have so much charm and personality that it really elevates this boss. Evilness just oozes out of this cackling bitch, and her design perfectly conveys how she took over Shellwood and made it a more violent place for anyone trying to pass by. Not incredible, but a really solid fight and fun boss character. And also, the crunchy sound she makes each time you hit her is so fucking satisfying. Music to my ears.
What the dog doing?
Hell yeah, I love my dog. Even if she's an ungrateful bitch. Like, girl, I literally set you free. Why are you attacking me? It was the boss fight against Beast that truly made me realize this game was going to be hard. The few opportunities to hit her, the double damage, and the huge hitbox, which feels even bigger considering how small the arena is, it all makes for a very challenging early game boss fight, which at first can feel overwhelming, but you then realize it's actually pretty fair. Despite how getting hits in can feel so hard to do, she is also quite frail. She dies to only 30 needle hits. That's a very doable amount. The attack pattern of the Beast also gives you plenty of time to heal in between attacks, which makes the fight a lot more manageable as an early game boss who does double damage. I originally had this one higher because I adored the character of the Beast herself. She is my dog and she is perfect, but I had to remind myself that this is just a boss ranking, and as a boss it is simply pretty good.
Nerf, 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 and nothing.
God, I hate this bitch-ass fly so much, but skill issue on my part. Moorwing is somehow one of the hardest bosses in the game, even on a second playthrough. I swear to God, I was getting everything first try during my speedrun and then this bitch took like 7 tries, for no reason. And honestly, I like that. I like that it is a boss capable of inducing panic in me each time it attacks. It is a very fast-paced boss fight, and with varied attacks, all of which are very well telegraphed and have clear ways of dodging them once you learn them. It is one that you slowly get better at, and it feels super rewarding to finally beat them. While writing this video, I also learned of its lore, and damn dude, it is fucking dark. A monstrosity bred specifically to hunt any worker who tried to escape from Greymoor. That's metal as hell. I do still hate the arena though. It's too wide, open, and long. I prefer it when arenas feel designed with more purpose.
Yo, the guy, did you kill my dog?
I cannot express the dread I felt when I called the Beast and only the Bell Eater appeared. Anxiety filled my whole body as I fought it, only to be replaced with relief when the Beast reappeared to kill the Bell Eater. I thought it had killed my dog, oh my god. You go girl, annihilate her ass. Not to be mean to the rest of it, but this is the peak of the boss fight. You know, when it dies. That's not to say that the rest of it is bad, because it isn't. The attacks can sometimes feel a little bit too spammy and as if there is no safe way of actually hitting the boss, but for the most part I like the pace of it. The phases have clear increases in difficulty and the overall menacing vibe of it makes the fight a memorable one.
Okay, now that those liberals are officially owned, I do want to leave with one last point. The greatest American value is Vor.
With the exception of a handful of bosses, I don't really know what is the general opinion of them among the community. But I do know people will hate me for this one. Groal the Great is fun, you guys are just mean. Here's the thing, the context surrounding this boss is awful. The runback is terrible, even with the hidden bench, the gauntlet beforehand is unnecessary and composed by some of the most annoying enemies in the game, and also Bilewater, just Bilewater as a whole. But once you actually get to the boss fight itself, hey man, it's pretty freaking cool. Groal's attacks are varied and fun to play around, with the Vengeful Spirit being particularly great on lore reasons alone. Like dude, the fact that he has it to begin with is very fun, he fucking ate the snail shaman. And in regards to lore, I find it very tragic how his home has been polluted and ruined by the Citadel. He's yet another victim. The fight isn't perfect, I don't like that he spawns minions that are very annoying, and even though I still think it's much better implemented than in the Chef Lugoli fight, the Makamogots are still terrible, which is why I use the Wreath of Purity like a little bitch. And yes, just getting to this one is a pain, but I feel like the boss fight itself doesn't get the appreciation it deserves because of that context. Cool frog. I really like it in both of these games when enemies are built up as more than wild beasts, and the Court of Crows and the Crowfather do exactly that for the Crows of Greymoor. The whole reason this boss fight even happens is so interesting. They don't want to kill you just because, it's because they see it as a necessary punishment for your involvement in the current state of Fairloom. And hey man, fair. The whole courtroom concept is so cool as well, with the crows looking like the public and jurors, and of course the Crowfather himself being the judge. A bold decision from Hornet to represent herself. Once the fight against the boss actually begins, it's pretty good as well. I wish it was a little more complex, most of the difficulty to me comes from the minions rather than the boss, but it is pretty fun nonetheless, and the chain attack looks badass as hell, even if it's super easy to avoid. Cool battle, I love fighting the justice system.
Things are unraveling fast now, boy!
White Ward as a whole is one of the more interesting areas in the whole game. having some of the best atmosphere in all of it, and when it comes to the Unraveled, it does not disappoint in that regard. It is this creepy amalgamation of silk, a manifestation of the pain endured by bugs in White World, their corpses coming back to life to unleash that pain on you. Oh man, it is so cool! I really love how the regular mobs you face here are also considered part of the boss fight. All of them are the Unraveled, not just the Conductor. But yeah, the use of a conductor's corpse is an inspired decision here. A huge, faceless and imposing body that is here to kill you. Mechanically, the boss fight does suffer from a little bit too much inactive gameplay, with a lot of time spent waiting for the boss or the enemies to come back up. And even when they are on the surface, the conductor's corpse in particular doesn't have the most engaging attacks either, mostly just charging at you. The most interesting attack in the fight is the one with the medical blades, but most of the time you are dodging those, there aren't enemies around. I don't want to sound like I don't like the gameplay of this one, because I still find it fun, but it has some issues. But even with not the greatest gameplay, the incredible atmosphere and storytelling on display make this one a really good boss fight. That was B tier. Let's get into A tier with number 19.
What do you mean you lost? The
Garmond.
Go find it.
I feel like Lost Garmond is probably the hardest boss to do hitless. Dodging attacks with tears in your eyes isn't easy. Dude, the way Zaza lays by his side after the boss fight, oh my fucking god. Team Cherry, how could you do this to me? This is definitely one of the most emotional bosses in the whole game. You didn't have to do this, Garmond. You were pushing yourself too hard, man. I'm gonna start crying any second now. This boss fight is a tragedy. Seeing Garmond, who has been happy and courageous the whole game, turned into this violent void husk just breaks my heart. The gameplay is simple, but like whatever, it obviously isn't this high because of the gameplay. Rest easy, you sweet bug.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Four brothers Signis and Groal are arguably some of the plainest bosses in this list when it comes to atmosphere and storytelling. They really are just a couple of dudes that are responsible for the deep dogs, and that's about it. But man, I am a sucker for team-up bosses, and I love the execution of that concept in this fight. They don't have the most complex move pools, but they still are a lot of fun to play around. The fight is fast-paced and entertaining, but it never feels overwhelming or unfair, with each of their attacks being clearly telegraphed. The minions are also very well implemented, with them adding considerable difficulty into the fight, while not being annoying. The hazards feel similarly in that sense, with the falling lava being a nice added obstacle to consider, but without being more difficult than the actual bosses. I also really love how the fight is hinted at by your previous encounter with Groal. At first, you think it's just a random new enemy, only for him to disappear and come back during the second half of the fight. So yeah, this one is nothing crazy, but I think it's just really well executed and great all around.
Susie, are you homophobic?
I am gay. She's dodging the question, Chris.
The entire questline of the Green Prince is my favorite subplot in all of Silksong. His story is so tragic and compelling, having lost everything to the Citadel, his kingdom, his people, and his partner. And the Clover Dancer's boss fight is an excellent end to his narrative. The dance of a prince with only a specter of his lover. It is beautiful and tragic. But it is also sadly the biggest downgrade when it comes to variants in this game. The biggest problem is that it doesn't do much more than the Clockwork Dancers fight, and it also feels simpler somehow. Not necessarily easier, I put them at the same level of difficulty considering the point in time you face them, but the fact that you now only have to deal with one hitbox, and in particular that there's only two phases, with not much distinction between one another, makes it feel less memorable. Still, this one is really great narratively, and the gameplay is really good in a vacuum as well, but sadly it is inevitable to compare it with the superior Clockwork Dancers fight. I remember first walking by this arena, looking at the background and thinking, oh yeah, that's a boss. But then I just kept walking and nothing happened. Oh, so I guess not, I thought. But then I came back again, and yeah, it was a boss. Great way to subvert expectations. Fourth Chorus is the coolest boss of Act 1. The imposing design of it, the epic feeling the arena gives you, and all of the lore that comes with it makes it one of the most interesting bosses in the whole game. When you first see it, it creates so many questions. Who built it? Why? How did it end up here? Why is it the fourth? Where are the rest? Oh man, I love it. Give me more bosses that capture the imagination, please. The fight itself is somewhat disappointing though. For such a badass looking enemy, his fight is one of the easiest in the game. It still is entertaining, its attacks are fun to play around, and I really love how the final phase you can kill it by simply depleting its health or by dropping the rocks on them. This one has so many cool design decisions.
Oh, back pocket, bold choice. These giant hips, you know.
Lace is such a bratty bitch. I love her. Lace 1 is kind of the Hornet protector of this game. An early game needle duel that is relatively fast paced and challenging once you're starting out, but becomes pretty easy once you learn it. Lace moves are fun to play around, with each of them being properly telegraphed, but also with a lot of range considering her small size, making them menacing. I really love how she is introduced, with her singing and the conducting of the silk flies, and overall, her personality is conveyed really well through this first encounter. Great fight and introduction to this character. And also I really love pushing her into the lava, that shit is hilarious.
Random bullshit, go!
She may be playing the harp, but when I think of Widow, I think of violins. Damn, this goes hard! The music perfectly complements the extreme fast pace of the fight. This one's exciting, tense, and meant to be played aggressively, which I love. When it comes to Widow's attacks, I love playing around them for the most part. The bell projectiles can feel a little annoying because of how they bounce around, but it is a fight that feels fair and well balanced once you get the rhythm down. Widow's lore is also so interesting, how she was cast aside by the other Weavers with her silk abilities taken from her because of her loyalty to Grandmother Silk. The design that results of this lore is so off-putting, especially the needles sunk in her back. You can feel the pain just by looking at her. Beautiful fight.
Keeping it simple to start with, who can make the loudest sound on a gong?
Hornet in the Hunter's Journal states the following in regards to Seth. He offered me fair warning and challenge. A duel in the purest sense. I admire his honor and his skill. And that's a perfect summation of how I feel about this fight. Pretty great stuff.
Yes, Queen! Slay!
Okay, fine, I'll say some more. I've stated before that I really love sword tools in these games, and this is no different. Shrine Guardian Seth's moves are fun to play against, and the fight has a really nice fast pace to it, but it simultaneously forces you to be patient at times, in particular with the shield shockwave attack, especially during the second phase when he does multiple ones in a row. There's a sense of elegant strength to his combat style, and it is great. Even the shield is well implemented, since it feels very fair whenever it blocks your attacks, and it's insane that I feel this way, because I usually hate shielded enemies. The vibes here are amazing as well. The music is just so beautiful and melancholic, and the theme may be called Nihileth, but let's not pretend like this isn't his theme. Alongside the arena filled with bodies of bugs from the Citadel, it perfectly conveys how he has remained steadfast in his duty as the Shrine Guardian, even if there's a painful feeling that he isn't fully content doing so. And like Hornet said in her own words, this is such a likable boss. The fight against him is an honorable duel. He doesn't rejoice in killing you, but doesn't hold back either, fulfilling his duty despite everything. This is a challenging but fair and really great boss fight.
Yes, Queen! Slay! Slay! Slay your enemies!
Grandmother Silk is an incredible antagonist and character. I'm not going to go into full detail because you could make a whole video just about her, but in short, I love how the game is able to give a lot of complexity to her without any dialogue, especially when you analyze her as a mother figure and how that fits into the themes of this game. And the climb towards her fight feels so epic and foreboding. When she emerges out of her silk cocoon in the distance and you finally come face to face with her, it's one of the most powerful moments in the whole game, and her visual design does not disappoint. She looks gracefully menacing, with her blades constantly floating around her, and her long silky hair giving her a supernatural, almost ghostly look. And dude, some of her moves also look so incredible, especially when she catches you in her thread. That animation is so awesome. Sadly, this foreboding feeling does not translate to the fight itself, because why the fuck is this so easy? It's one of the easiest fights in the whole game, what is going on? In my first playthrough ever, it only took me 2 tries, and after that, every time I fought her again, I feel as if I'm bullying her. Even for the cursed ending, it only took me like 8 tries. In contrast, Lace 2 almost took me 30 for that ending. And I don't want to give the impression that I like difficulty for the sake of difficulty. I definitely prefer an easy but fair boss over a hard but unfair one. This is the final boss of the game, or of Act 2 at least. This is a pale being. She is the reason all of the demigod weavers had to escape or even died. This is a god in universe. She shouldn't be this easy to beat, and unlike the Hollow Knight in the first game who had a similar issue, This isn't a mercy healing, there's no reason for her to hold back. She hates Hornet and wants to murder her, so why doesn't it feel that way? It's not a boring fight, mind you, she barely has passive mechanics and the attacks are fun to dodge, but it is genuinely so disappointing how unchallenging this fight feels. I don't know how it could have been improved, maybe make her move faster or give the player fewer chances to hit her, but regardless, the lack of challenge is really disappointing. Despite that, like expressed at the beginning, the narrative aspect and the atmosphere in this fight live up to the hype, which is why she is so high on the list despite being a disappointing challenge.
Ring ring! Hello, what's that? What do you mean they hit the second tower?
Am I the only one who finds it hilarious that he's called Crust King Kang? Really? Crust King? I can't explain why, that is just really funny to me. Besides the stupid name, this motherfucker looks so badass. Such a cool design, and the fight in general has an epic feeling to it, despite being rather easy, especially for Act 3 standards. The fast pace of it, the total lack of passivity from the boss, his total control of the environment around him, the beautiful arena at the top of the coral tower, and the grandiosity of his attacks really sell the image of this warrior king, even if he hides behind 4 gauntlets of enemies like a little bitch. His attacks are obviously telegraphed, but the high speed of them, especially during his last phase, makes it so you can never truly relax during the fight. It's annoying how you have to go through the 4th gauntlet each time you attempt it, but still, such a great boss fight, definitely one of the coolest. Just the fact that Tormented Trobio exists is hilarious. They took Trobio, made him depressed, turned him purple and gave him more glitter and fireworks and called it a day. But man, I love the result. I love how his reaction to Farloom dying is to become emo, but despite that, it of course isn't a gloomy boss fight. This one keeps the fun vibe of the first fight, as well as the extremely fun gameplay. It is very fast paced, it is challenging, and his move pool is diverse. Sadly, despite being a rematch of one of my favorite bosses in the game, I do have some issues with this fight in regards to the gameplay. The screen shake can be annoying, sometimes there's way too much shit on the screen, and there are instances of too much RNG, especially with the way his balls bounce around. Wait, no, that sounds wrong. It has some issues and I do consider it a downgrade compared to the first Trobio fight, but overall I really like this one. And that was A tier. Let's get on to S tier with number 9.
The tinsmith forgot to give me a heart.
No heart?
I love the second Sentinel as a character. There's a sense of melancholy to their existence. A cogward knight with no siblings left, with trouble to speak clearly, and yet who persists in their duty of protecting the citadel, even when there's nothing left to protect, simply because they don't have another purpose. I love how before the duel with Hornet, they seem unsure of whether she is a threat or not, but pushed by their programming, they feel as if they must attack her, and once the duel starts, it does not disappoint. This is yet another incredible needle duel. The second Sentinel is fast, but he never feels overwhelmingly fast. Their moves are menacing, with many of them having a lot of range or covering large parts of the arena, but they are also very well telegraphed, and with clear ways of dodging them once you learn them. The fight overall has the perfect balance of difficulty and fairness. Added to the great atmosphere and character writing, this is an easy S tier. Also, this happened to me on my first playthrough, what the fuck?
Happy birthday, Grandpa!
Did anyone else die to the explosion the first time they beat this boss? I did, like an absolute fool. Last Judge is so fucking cool. Such a perfect ending to Act 1 and your climb towards the Citadel. Right when you thought you made it, when you thought you were safe, at least for now, this imposing bug appears to beat your ass. While her lore is relatively straightforward, being the literal last judge of pilgrims who try to enter, her visual design is one of my favorite when it comes to bosses. The mixture of flesh and bronze armor gives her a sense of being mechanized, almost as if the armor has become part of her body, and her design is perfectly complemented by her attacks and the overall gameplay and rhythm of the fight. She charges you with her whole body, swings her heavy weaponry as if it was nothing, and the fire attacks are just the cherry on top. The imposing feeling her combat style gives off is immaculate. This fight is really hard, one of the hardest in the game in my opinion, especially on a first playthrough, but it also has one of the most satisfying learning curves in all of it. It was such a great feeling slowly getting better at it, progressing more and more, getting farther up ahead in the fight, until I was finally able to beat her, and man, I was so fucking happy. My only problem with this boss, especially related to its difficulty, is that the run back can be a real pain, but similarly to Groal, I won't hold that against the boss itself. Last Judge is incredible.
We now return to popular Russian cartoon Shoe and Shoeless.
When I first played the game and got into the cogwork elevator, I thought I was entering Act 3, only to be met by this bratty asshole, who also proceeded to quickly beat my ass. Lace 2 is amazing though. It's not that different from Lace 1, with her moveset being almost the same, but the extra speed she has really elevates the fight, making it a lot more challenging, while still retaining fairness, with well telegraphed attacks and clear ways of dodging them. The fight is anything but passive, with Lace constantly on the offensive, while giving you plenty of opportunities to hit her, and narratively this one is also a clear upgrade. Being just about to reach the top of the citadel gives much more weight to it, and the visual design of the arena helps a lot too, with the bed of white flowers making the encounter feel magical, almost angelical. Finally, when you beat her and her origins are revealed, alongside her feelings of inadequacy and rejection, I can't help but feel for her. During our first encounter she was just a bratty asshole, and during most of this fight, she still is a bratty asshole. But at the end of it, she truly becomes a fully fledged person and character. Lace 2 is such an incredible upgrade to the first fight, and somehow it gets even better.
Whoa! Is that blackface, dude?
Oh, Lost Lace, where to begin, dude? Despite being on S tier, I don't think this one is flawless. It is a little disappointing that the true final boss of the game is one we are fighting for the third time, even if she has a lot of new moveset options. I also feel as if she isn't super imposing as a final boss. This is a matter of personal preference, but I prefer it when the final bosses in games like this are imposing entities, such as Radiance or Grandmother Silk, and Lace still is a bratty child, even if she painted herself black. And this one has some more annoying aspects to the gameplay. The big one being how much of the fight she spends out of the arena, in particular during the second half, which can make it very frustrating when trying to hit her, especially on a first playthrough when you don't really know what to expect. Because of all of these reasons, I originally had this one a couple of spots lower in A tier. However, the highs of this boss fight are so undeniably high that I cannot put it any lower. The epic feeling that this fight has is unmatched. The dive onto the Void Sea and finally reaching the cocoon at the deepest part of it is amazing. Once you enter, I love the subversion. Hornet gets ready to fight Grandmother Silk yet again, only to be revealed that she is incapable and unwilling to do so, followed by the reveal that Lost Lace is the true final boss. Most of the game was about scaling the Citadel, going to its highest point to face the one who had brought us there. But the true final boss is at the lowest possible point of this world, in the deepness of the Void Sea. Once Grandmother Silk slowly collapses, the pressure of the void around her ever greater, you truly get that this can't go any longer. As the arena begins to crumble with more and more void seeping into the Silk cocoon, you really get to feel as if you are fighting at the end of the world. And what brings it all together is the music theme. It has a menacing and intense sound to it, perfectly conveying the danger and gravity of the situation. But there's a sense of hope to it, very small at first, but more prevalent and powerful during the second half of the fight. Yes, you are fighting an incredibly powerful and dangerous enemy, but you aren't here to destroy them. You are here to save them, and when you finally do, with the help of Grandmother Silk no less, it feels so grandiose and earned. And despite some of my problems with the gameplay, I still think it is undeniably great. It is fast-paced, it's extremely challenging, and it's such a perfect and natural evolution of the Lace fight. It's still her, she has most of her base moves, but the Void has clearly taken over and corrupted her. The Void is perfectly incorporated into her attacks, with tentacles sprouting behind her when she dashes, Void now being part of her flurry of slashes, and Void tendrils sometimes replacing her diagonal dive. And her new Void attacks, despite being similar to those possessed by enemies throughout Act 3, feel more menacing and potent than we ever seen before. It is a hard fight, the hardest in the game in fact, but once you begin to understand it and get used to her high speed, it feels fair and extremely rewarding. Lost Lace isn't a perfect final boss, but it is without a doubt an incredible one, deserving of the S tier.
Oh, musical theater energy. Yeah, I think I could do that.
Dude, let's go! It's Trovio, everybody! Holy shit, I'm so Trovio coded! I believe in Trovio supremacy, I love Trovio, I'm Trovio maxing! Trovio! I really love this gay diva butterfly. The moment I saw him, he instantly became one of my favorite characters in the game. Just the way he hypes himself up is so amazing. And that's the kind of confidence that we could all learn a little bit from. He is delightful and charming in every aspect. His design, his boss, his colorful attacks, even his stagger. The way he fans himself is hilarious. I already alluded to it earlier with the Tormented Trovio entry, but when it comes to the gameplay, this one has such a fun vibe to it. And unlike the Tormented version, this one feels a lot less spammy and well balanced, while still being challenging and fast paced, especially on a first playthrough. In that sense, I love each of his attacks. The tornado has a clear trajectory but can easily catch you off guard, his bouncing balls while still being RNG heavy feel very manageable here, and the glitter explosions and geysers are great if you don't have epilepsy. I love this dude and his fight so much. Absolute peak.
Take a closer look at that snout.
easily the best boss of Act 1, and my favorite needle doodle in the whole game. The fight against Phantom is simply incredible. Fast-paced, challenging, and with every single one of their moves being threatening. But at the same time, it never feels overwhelming, unfair, or as if the moves aren't properly telegraphed. What I love the most about this fight is the parallels between it and the fights against Hornet in Hollow Knight. Phantom quite literally feels like a Phantom of Hornet, with some similarities in their designs and their movesets. They both have side dashes, diagonal dive bombs, and a similar parry stance, all of which are extremely fun to play around, by the way. Whether these are intentional or simply a coincidence doesn't really matter to me. Even if it's not actually their lore and also doesn't make sense, my headcanon is that Phantom was modeled after Hornet, which is why they are named Phantom. And hey, speaking of lore, this one has an incredible one. A first attempt at a child made purely of silk, only to be discarded and sent to control the exhaust organ. I love how their frailty and broken body is conveyed through their design, especially with how they have to hold their mask while fighting. And what really brings it all together is the incredible music theme and the design of the arena. The exhaust organ is one of my favorite places in the whole game, but battling with it imposing on the background just feels so epic. The atmosphere, the narrative, and the gameplay perfectly come together on this battle. And I didn't even mention the bombastic ending with the parry, but yes, it is very cool. This doesn't really have to do with my opinion of the boss, but look at these perfectly synchronized ant guards. Isn't that cool? I'm pretty sure everybody loves this fight, but with good reason. Scar Singer Carmelita is an impeccably designed boss. It is a very challenging one, definitely one of the hardest ones in the whole game, even after beating it multiple times. In this game, thanks to the crest and tool system, there's so many ways to approach bosses, but I think that is particularly true for this one. The difficulty of it doesn't stop you from trying different builds unlike other bosses. You can make most builds work against her, may it be tool spam, more defensive combat, pure nail builds, or silk skill spam. Hey, you can even go for a parry battle, parrying almost every single one of her attacks. I mean, I personally can't, because skill issue, but it is possible. And speaking of her attacks, holy shit they are good. She has range attacks, she has attacks that cover large parts of the arena, if not all of it, she has quick melee attacks, she does it all, man. Because of that, you really feel as if your ability with Hornet's skills is being tested, as you really need to use most, if not all of them in proficient ways to get through the battle and dodge her attacks. The movement in this one is so satisfying, and somehow the greatness of this fight doesn't end there. Carmelita's design is beautiful, a perfect execution of the warrior dancer concept, with the flamenco inspiration being superb. Her design has a perfect mix of fierceness and elegance, leaning more into the skillful aspect of such a warrior rather than the brutality. This is further enhanced by the arena. The amphitheater in the background, filled with rows of ants, perfectly shows how respected and admired she was as a leader, which makes her current condition of abandonment even more tragic. I almost feel bad fighting her, but if Team Cherry didn't want me to do it, they shouldn't have given her such a banger music theme. Yeah, this one goes incredibly hard. I love how it is sung by the boss herself, so fucking good. Scar Singer Carmelita is absolute peak, some of the best boss design I've ever encountered in a video game. And somehow, there's two more I love even more.
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
It feels a little silly to put cogward dancers this high up, because despite the gameplay of this boss being a lot of fun, it is also on the simpler side. They only have 3 moves: the directional dashes across the arena, the circular flurry they do at the center, and the quick dashes all over the screen. They are all fun to play around and dodge, and they make for a good enough challenge, at least on a first playthrough. The fight has a nice rhythm and pace to it, but it's nothing out of this world, certainly not enough for top 3. However, this is the most charming fight in the whole game. The vibes are so incredible. It is unbelievable. Everything about the presentation of this fight is fine-tuned to perfection. The cogwork arena is beautiful, the way their attacks are presented as if they're dancing together is amazing, and dude, the music theme. Best theme in the whole game, hands down. It is genuinely beautiful, but simultaneously intense, especially with how the tempo gets faster with each phase, and by phase 3, the softness of the music is fully gone. Man, it is so good! What's so great about this fight too is how it perfectly conveys the story of these bosses without the need of a single word. Even before you meet the Green Prince and learn the specific of his story, the general idea of it is perfectly conveyed through the fight. A pair of lovers and warriors, who through their dance fought any enemy that came their way, only for one of them to be gone, leaving the remaining one incapable of fighting anymore. The final phase of this fight, with the lone cogward dancer dancing by itself and unable to perform the dance moves, is generally so heartbreaking. And of course, once you learn how they are fueled by the Green Prince's lover's soul, it becomes even more tragic. Even if this fight doesn't have the best gameplay, it still is really great, and the visual storytelling on display is simply incredible. When I first fought them, the cogward dancers easily became my favorite boss fight in the whole game, and it remained that way for many hours of gameplay, until I finally came across my #1 spot.
The giant enemy spider.
First Sinner, I hardly know her. Yeah, this was the easiest #1 of my life. First Sinner was born to be on first place. Get it? Because she's called First Sinner, so she has first on her name, and also there's no other bosses that I fought as many times as I fought First Sinner. Especially if you consider the 40 or so failed attempts before I beat her for the first time. I just keep going back to it, trying to speedrunning, testing different builds and tools against her, and she is the only boss I've defeated with every single crest. She has now become easy for me because of all of that, but man, this one is so challenging and hard to beat at first. It is an extremely fast-paced fight, with her constantly teleporting around the room and always throwing attacks your way. At first, it feels impossible, sort of a Nightmare King Grim situation, especially since the windows to get hits in are short-lived, but once you begin to understand the way she moves and are able to keep up with her speed, this becomes the most fun boss fight in the whole game, while retaining the intensity of your first attempt. Like I said, it has become easy for me, but even after beating her so many times, I can't go into autopilot, I still need to focus on it. Each of her moves poses a different kind of challenge. The needles test your position ability, her downward clawing tests your reaction time, her dash across the arena your ability to find her weak spot or to pogo, her healing your movement speed, and her rune rage casting your decision making on when and when not to attack. And when these moves are combined, it just makes for the most satisfying gameplay in the whole game. And of course, the impeccable mechanics are elevated by an immaculate atmosphere. I know this is also Widow's theme, but this music has fully become associated to First Sinner in my mind. It perfectly fits the extremely fast pace and aggressive nature of her combat style, and goes along so naturally with the intensity of the fight. And the cherry on top is that this fight leads to one of the most interesting character lores in the whole game. The First Sinner story is a key part of understanding the story of the Weavers and Grandmother Silk, but beyond that, it is tragic and compelling. Her visual design perfectly complements her narrative, with the broken mask and the cut off arms. Even before you understand the details, you understand that she was punished and tortured for whatever it was she did. This fight is just too incredible. It is beautiful, intense, and epic. First Sinner is, without a doubt, my favorite Silksong boss. So, that's the list. I can't wait for people to tell me how wrong I am. While I absolutely loved the first Hollow Knight, Silksong is an undeniable upgrade in every way, with the bosses being no exception. And even when they aren't great, the base gameplay and movement is so incredibly well made that I'm able to enjoy myself even when fighting the D tier bosses. Silksong is a game that I have been able to stop thinking about from the moment I started it. The bosses, the world, the characters, the music, everything about it just works together so well. So expect more Silksong videos in the near future. Not the next one probably, but the one after that will be Silksong related. So subscribe, baby! As usual, subscribe, comment, like, and that entire algorithm jazz. If you liked, make sure to let me know to boost my ego. If you didn't, let me know in what way I could improve. But be respectful, or I will cry. Okay guys, have a good one.